We're now going to take a look at the things you will need to have before you begin a BOOMI EDI process. You need to know the following before you get started. What standard you are using, such as X12, EDIFACT, Rosetta Net, the version being used, such as 4010, 5010. You need to have some sample data so you understand what you're loading into your system. From the sample data, you can determine the transaction type you have so you can get the spec. If the spec is unavailable, such as you're using a custom standard, you need to have a file definition. And finally, you need to understand the communication type. What are you sending to, receiving from? Are you using a VAN? How do I connect to these? One of the items you need is a sample data file. This is a scaled down version of an EDI X12 850 data file. By examining this code in detail, you can discover much information. The EDI format consists of the connected document components. Let's take a look at the file. First, the delimiter. This is a unique character which separates each data element. In EDI, the delimiter is usually a star. The segment terminator is a unique character that identifies the end of a segment. In our case, it's a tilde. An EDI segment is a group of related data elements. A segment begins with a data identifier and ends with a segment terminator. The data element or field is the basic unit of information. This represents a single fact. The qualifier is a detailed data element predefined by EDI standards to classify key data. In our example, IA is a valid qualifier for the REF segment. A loop is a collection of potentially repeating information. Finally, the identifier instance is a flag in the EDI structure used to describe the detailed data set based on a numeric occurrence qualifier. This is a shortened version of an X12 850 spec, which displays a sample segment so it will fit on one slide. It contains each of our three areas: heading, detail, and summary. Reading the spec from left to right, it displays an M if the segment is mandatory, the position number, the segment ID, the name. If it's required, it has an M in it. If it's optional, it has an O. The maximum number of times it's used. If it is a loop and it repeats, the number of times it repeats, and finally some notes and comments. When you move to our EDI Basics class, you will see how to use this spec and your sample file format to create an X12 850 EDI transaction. This concludes our EDI Fundamentals class. After reviewing our questions about the class, you will move on to the EDI Basics class, where you'll learn how EDI works with BOOMI.